All right, I have got a treat for you guys today. I've got a video here showing proof that water has the ability to store memories, but also has the ability to interpret and to speak. So let's get into this. I'm actually gonna combine two different videos. What you guys are gonna see, this first one is a short, and then I'm going to bring in a scientific explanation behind it. But let's go on ahead and get into this.
I'd like to introduce you to the idea of water as an intelligent designer. Here I exposed water to my friend's photo, removed and froze using a special method, and it designed her face. I showed the ice result to the water, and it designed a negative of her face. I briefly placed my thumb in the water and then froze it, and water designed a thumb with a chip in the nail. I chipped my nail in exactly the same place 3 hours later. Here I used a conceptual word of ego. It's a word I have no visual for, which removes any mental projection, and water designed a person with big shoulders, a small face, and a giant balloon head. I used the word milk as an influence, and water designed a breast. I wasn't thinking of human milk, so this was a surprise. You notice that the ice designs are not photocopies of the influence, but more of an interpretation, and to me, this is clear display of some kind of awareness. I honestly don't think we know what water really is yet.
All right, this is some absolutely fascinating stuff. Um, we are going to look at let's see here.
Hello. By the way, the second video after this one, or meaning the next video after this one, I'll show you the structured water device and how to make it. Obviously, like every other video that I make, which is over 6,000, I don't sell anything at all, so I'm not working any angle of hokum. I can't believe I have two structured water devices, and I came up with the most simple one and also two the most effective. There's a lot of convoluted devices out there on doing structured water, and it's not actually hokum. It's actually known for a fact that structured water has osmotic attributes where it's actually absorbed into the body faster, and there's palpable empirical evidence that shows that plants react to the water better. But this first video is an important one. It has to be a separate one because it's on the memory of water. And I am obviously far from the first person that has said or stated explicitly, and I'm very familiar with Mr. Imamoto's work. I think his last name is Imamoto. He actually experimented water to like, anger and, good feelings and nice things, and it would actually crystallize radically different and countless other phenomena. But even though there have been countless thousands of people getting to the root of the matter, countless thousands of people that have talked about water being the medium for memory. And there are also two evidences where someone, for example, had a heart transplant, and someone else who died, a car wreck, whatever, they got a heart of another person, or a liver, for example, and all of a sudden they actually have memories that they should not have. And these were the memories of the person that died that were donating their organs. There's actually more than a few evidences for this. But the basis for memory in water is something that nobody has addressed. And of course, water is a polar molecule. We're talking about two hydrogen atoms and an oxygen atom, and their bonding is a well-established fact. Their actual nature should be based upon their charge geometry, which is also too why I have this tattooed on the top right of my hand, the specific 108-36-36. If you actually look up the geometry of water, which of course is a triangle, it will read usually like 104 degrees or 104.3. That would be off the physical geometry of the atom, but an atom doesn't actually have a physical geometry. It depends on where you actually measure it at. But anyway, it's the 108-36-36, and that's the magic triangle of the Pythagoreans. The specific geometry in triplicate is the exact same geometry that makes up the Pythagorean pentagram. All you have to do is just take the specific triangle and put it in triplicate, and that is the Pythagorean pentagram. And it also, too, is the only geometry in all the universe. And this is not New Age. I hate New Age movement, these crystal rubber, people that, light incense and wear goofy robes and, have little brass statues around their little goofy friggin' altar. I'm not into any of that kind of garbage at all. I'm a hardcore, logical, Neoplatonic Platonist. But it's the only geometry in the entire universe that actually has the incommensurable, and I could talk for hours, literally hours, I am not even exaggerating to you at all, about the incommensurability, the euristos daios as the Greeks referred to it, and the Ananke principle of this specific geometry, and that's why it's tattooed on the back of my hand. But that also, too, is the geometry of water. And it is undeniably the case. Of the countless thousands of people before me have said that, well, memory is in water. Well, what the hell does that mean? There's no memory actually in either the hydrogen atom or the other hydrogen atom or in the freaking oxygen. And this is very important. This is where retroductive logic and common sense comes into play, which nobody has anymore. And nobody knows what the hell retroduction is. I'll be writing a book on it later this year. It's not within the atoms. I mean, well, these are the three components that actually make up the water molecule. Yes, well, that's undeniably so. Every scientist and every person on Earth, well, yeah, that's what makes up water. Well, I mean, there can't be memory in the actual atoms themselves. That's not the case. It's just like, and a perfect analogy would be a hard drive. I'm kind of like a guru on hard drives. We actually encode binary data into, and it's not a ferrite surface. Old hard drives had ferrite surfaces that the heads would actually encode binary into, ones and zeros. But it's not part of the substrate surface of a hard drive. That the data is not there. It's the encoding of the structure itself, and the same is true of like where the hell is the memory in water. The point that I'm getting at is not in the oxygen and it's not in the two hydrogen. We actually take this down the road of something that must follow Occam's razor, that must be both logical, sensible, wise, and is irreducibly and retroductively valid, and that is that the memory is stored within, and it's not within because it has no locus specifically, it is stored within the incommensurable geometry that makes up the holos, or the whole, or the totality of the water molecule itself. In other words, it's not in the oxygen, it's not in the hydrogen or the other hydrogen atom, it's in the holos of the structure. And I really do not, nor am I exaggerating to you at all, that talking about this would take hours and hours and hours, and I've written articles on this, and I've translated every occurrence of the euristos daios within the works of Plotinus. There's even a 284-page book, it's 352 I believe, trying to translate the meaning of Ananke, which is usually translated as necessity, but it talks about the Ananke. It must be, it cannot be any other way. You go down this avenue of metaphysics and monistic monism as to why things are, and also too why things are at all. That it's actually stored within the holos, sort of the holography of the structure. In other words, if we were to make a really, really crude analogy, because I'm probably losing some of you right now, is that, I'm in a room right now, right? And it has X, Y, Z dimensions. I mean, what is stored within this room other than my fat self and this computer and all sorts of other crap behind me and around me is not part and parcel of the walls or the drywall or the wood floor beneath me. That's not where it is. It is within the space of the structure of the four walls of this room, right? That's where all this crap is stored at. It's not in the wood flooring and it's not in the drywall, right? The memory that is in water, and nobody has ever touched upon this, ever throughout the countless thousands of people who said, memory, water has memories. Well, that's nice to say that, and it's an accurate statement, but what the hell does it really mean? Water stores, but how? Like oxygen isn't storing memories, the hydrogen isn't storing the memory, and the other hydrogen atom isn't storing. Where is it? If we're to make a crude analogy like I just did with this room, it is in the structure of what the molecule is, and that is, of course, It's electrostatic charge between look this up, by the way. Someone actually told me yesterday, water's not a polar molecule. It's like you could find 10 million examples even on a Google search. Water is a polar molecule. That's an established fact that I have no qualms with modern day so-called science with. It's a well-established the molecular bonding nature of the water molecule, how they actually bond together. And the actual electrostatic shells and valences of, I shouldn't say valences, the actual geometry of the charges that make up the water molecule, because it's very, very peculiar. It's very, very unique in the world. And of course, last I checked, all life requires water. All life requires water, and this is a matter for another.
Okay, so remember when we were talking about the breath of life, right? The breath of life. The word life there is chayim, which is living water. Remember that the tree of life is the tree of living water. Let everything that has the breath of life in it. Remember that verse? Okay, so interesting stuff that he's talking about here. This is the science behind the water, but it's interesting that we are learning about water in scripture, or the word being the well, and all of these interesting things about water, blood, spirit, and how these three things, the water, the blood, and the spirit, give testimony in the earth. They bear witness in the earth. Let's just continue watching.
All life requires water, but consciousness does not require water, but life certainly does. And there's nobody on this earth that disputes that fact unless they're a lunatic in a crazy asylum. So the memory that is in water, and water does contain the memory, and this is also too, I'm 100% certain the reason why people are so sick, because everything you drink, by the way, even growing up, I had a sixth sense, literally, to never drink anything out of the tap. Never drink tap water. He's like, I'm never going to drink it. I would drink grape juice and orange juice, and sometimes, a lot of that was concentrated and reconstituted with tap water, but I was very, very young and stupid. But I always knew that stuff out of the tap was evil, and it is, not just because it has fluoride in it and countless other things. But I mean, it's reprocessed toilet water, and no matter how well they clean it at the water treatment plant, the evils and the sicknesses and, that water has been through a million hells, and that's what you're ingesting. And this is the reason for the second video, structured water, how to actually structure water, how to do it simply. Once again, I'm not selling anything. However, I always appreciate a donation. That's always great. But I'm not selling anything. I'll show you how to make it in the second video. But this video is about the memory of water. None of these people touched on, well, where the hell is the memory in water? Well, it's obviously not in the three atoms. It's in the actual structure, the actual aoristos dias, and the incommensurability that makes up this. And if I could ever use one word magically, and I never use the word magic because I have nothing to do with New Age piss ants, and they're rubbing their crystals and their little friggin' brass statues, and they're burning incense and all their other superficial, external, religious, New Age crap. I have nothing to do with that. But if I ever use the word correctly, and one time and one time only, the word magic. And the Pythagoreans knew this as well, the one time that they used the word magic. And by the way, that's the other reason why Yugata is tattooed here on ancient Greek. This is the Pythagorean saying, Yugata. These were used at the 5 points of the Pythagorean pentagram, Yugata. Yug, Gamma, Iota, Theta, and Alpha. And it would take a long time to explain that, but it actually refers to the holos and the incommensurability. And that is the one most important secret. It was an internal secret of the Pythagoreans, what incommensurability is, its meaning, its implications, on and on and on. If you look up the word incommensurability on dictionary.com or something, you're going to get a BS. So don't go looking it up. You won't actually find the original aoristos dias or ananke of incommensurability, a la the Pythagoreans, unless you purchase one or two books on ancient Pythagoreanism and their monistic metaphysics. But if I'm to use the one word magic correctly, it is in relationship to the incommensurability of this specific geometry. And this specific geometry, and it's upside down, I should actually do it like this. This specific geometry of the Pythagoreans is the only sacred geometry. It's the only time I'm going to use the word sacred either. Use the word magic and sacred. It's the only sacred geometry in the entire universe, the basis of life. It's the only perfect geometry of absolute perfection, of incommensurability that exists in the entire universe, is the 108, 36, 36 of the Pythagoreans. And that's also to the exact same structure of the water molecule. The memory that's in the water molecule is not, of course, part of the atoms. It's in the holos, or the holographic nature of the electrostatic charge and its geometry that comprises the totality of the water molecule. So it is not located in the atoms, of course, just as, what the crap that's contained, if this crap in this room were analogous to memories. Obviously, this crap is not part of the wood flooring, and it's not part of the walls either. But it's within the structure of the topos, or place, that makes up. Imagine these walls were charged, and they were analogously symbolic to the two hydrogen atoms and the one oxygen atom. And that charge was an electrostatic topos, or place, within space. And of course, space has no properties, only has attributes. And that, of course, is where it's stored. This is where the memory within water actually is. It cannot be in the atoms. It's absolutely impossible. That completely destroys Occam's razor. It breaks common sense. It breaks logic. It doesn't follow retroductively using either induction, or specifically the most important tool that isn't used anymore, retroduction, which is the tool of the ancient Pythagoreans, Platonists, and Neoplatonists, including Aristotle, even though I'm no fan of Aristotle, nor an Aristotelian lover, if you will. But that is where the memory is. And by implication and due logical inference, well, deduction actually, simplex deduction, when people and us and you and me, not me, I never drank tap water. I always knew that tap water was evil, are drinking this water that's... and there's also, too, a reason why, drinking out of a deep aquifer, that's like, I used to be a cave diver. I talk about the perfect melding of all sorts of things when it comes to being an expert on field theory and all sorts of stuff. I'm also, too, me and my buddy are big aficionados on water filters. I have tons and tons of the most expensive water filters money can buy. I used to do a lot of cave diving in the karst rock formations in Central Florida, High Springs, Little River Cave, Devil's Eye Cave, Devil's Ear Cave. Yes, that's actually what they're called. All sorts of caves in this water that's in the Florida aquifer had been within the system no less than like 100. In other words, when it rains and the water or whatever trickles down, and most of the underwater aquifers that I dived in were about 120 feet average. It takes it about 100 or 120 years. They assume for the water to actually make it into the water aquifer before it actually juts back out. You could freely gulp this delicious spring water. Lightning strikes and the deep earth, cleansing of this, that almost superficially sounds like New Age crap, but it's undeniable that does it. I mean, there's a reason why fresh spring water that's been in the ground no less than 100 years tastes, even if it has minerals and bug guts in it, it bubbles up to the surface, maybe some like mosquito poop is in it. It tastes so much better than even the purest of the pure, ultra filtered water that comes out of the tap. You feel more invigorated. It seems to revitalize your system faster. There's a reason for that. That it's actually been scrubbed, and I'll actually talk about that scrubbing and show you the structured water device that I've created. The structured water devices years ago. I didn't think anybody'd want to see them, but check out the next video, because everybody's been asking me about it. I was like, well, if that's what you really want to see, I'll show it to you. It's very, very simple. I got a couple of them. And check it out. You can make one yourself for like $40 or less. And it has nothing to do with me. I'm not selling anything. So hope you like these videos. If you do, this is what you asked for. Thanks so much for watching. Click the link below if you appreciate these videos. If not, just let me know. People always do let me know all the time how much they can't stand anything I do or say. But can't make everybody happy. Thank you. Goodbye.
Pretty cool stuff. So I'm not gonna throw in a whole lot on top of this, because he's speaking from a scientific point of view, and a lot of that's completely over my head, but I did want to share with you, while we're on this subject of water, while we're on the subject of water, blood, spirit, and one of the things, 2 Peter 3:5 talks about that the earth was created through water by the word of God, and that all the waters have been here since the very beginning. Literally, the one thing on the earth that is for sure is that the water you're drinking has been here since day one. Pretty interesting, isn't it? And when people die, the bodies decay, and people poop, people pee, all of these things. The one thing that you can guarantee is the water you're drinking has been inside of somebody else, was a part of somebody else. And like he was talking about the aspects of water retaining the memory, when you're drinking water from a system where water has been cleaned and then put back out into the system for consumption, that it has been in and out of the bowels of literally billions of people over time, and we're drinking it. So even if you filter your water and there's nothing uh nothing physically in it, there is spiritually, which is the memory. It's in there. What's interesting is that first video that I showed you, it's showing you that water can speak, because the lady shows how she put the word ego and didn't give any kind of directive to the water, but the water's memory, there was something, the water was able to speak and to show this figure with broad shoulders and a small face and a large head. And so I want you to think about that. And even the pictures that were on there, the water gave its own rendition of those pictures. So this stuff's absolutely fascinating, and we'll touch on this more. We'll get into the next one. I'm going to probably post this guy's video on structured water for $40, because it's probably something all of us need to be doing, considering we're drinking water that's been pissed and shit out of billions of people. And not only that, but all the other evil stuff that goes on in the world that's been pumped into this. I mean, it's no wonder people are sick. But anyway, we'll see you in the next one.